Hey guys, it's me again. First things first, I got braces on my top teeth, so if I'm talking different, if my lips get stuck every time I talk, and I have to do that whole little reset and bring my mouth back together, just ignore it, it's fine. I'm still adjusting. I've had them before. They're way better this time. The first time I had them, I had top, bottom, palate expander. It was hellish. Bear with me while I try to talk normally with them. But today I'm doing a more serious, kind of heavy video. I'm gonna try to keep it light. This is stuff that I have worked through in therapy and with God, and I'm still working through it, but I'm gonna try to keep it light and more like educational / helpful to others who may have experienced similar things or just want more general knowledge on such topics. I am a no expert of this topic, especially when it comes to this spiritually, the topic of lust. I know people talk about it. They involve demons and other things. I'm not spiritually versed like that yet, but I can speak from my experience and what I am learning as I go becoming a Christian. This is a topic I'm super passionate about, so I'll try to keep it short and simple. I actually already filmed half of this, but just like my last video, I had to stop midway through, and instead of doing two separate parts and throwing off the flow, especially because it's been a few days, I'm just going to completely start over, and hopefully this time it's better and more Holy Spirit led. And yeah, I posted on social media if people had any questions, and I don't have social media on my phone, and I literally forgot to get back on my Instagram and check and see if anyone asked. I think I got like one or two on Snapchat, so if I'm gonna read them again, and if they're any good, I'll answer them here. But just like my testimony video, let's start from the beginning. When it comes to sexuality, lust, and everything, I got exposed at a very young age. And I'm going to be careful with my verbiage too. I feel like I'm going to be saying, like, try to use, like, social media appropriate language. So I'm going to try to stay away from, like, harsh words or, like, I don't know what words are acceptable on YouTube or not. So I'm going to try to do my best. If not, I'll be bleeping and try to signal what I'm talking about. I was exposed to things at a really young age, which planted a desire and a curiosity, and it just opened a whole new door in my life. And I feel like every friendship that I had growing up with a girl or anyone in general just always turned sexual to some degree. And I feel like my first exposure to that was definitely in like kindergarten, and I had an older friend who did things to me I didn't understand. I had multiple things happen to me from multiple different people growing up that I never understood what was happening until I got older. And it started to make sense when I thought about it. But yeah, I had an experience when I was younger, and then that kind of opened up my curiosity. I became super hypersexual, and all of my friendships played out the same. I remember one of my first best friends. Now, looking back, she was definitely in a very unhealthy, unsafe house, and she was also being abused. And anytime we would hang out, she would do different things to me. And I just remember every time after things would happen, I would feel so much like guilt, and not because of anything anyone instilled in me. There was never any like sexual guilt growing up or any condemnation when it came to that. It was just my natural reaction was to feel guilty about it because I didn't understand it, and I felt gross. I would cry. I don't know, I just remember always feeling so unsafe after things would happen. And eventually I wasn't allowed to hang out with her anymore. I never understood why either. And then I feel like it just kept happening in all my friendships. Like we would all like, I joked about it for a while because I thought it was funny. Like, yeah, me and my girlfriends always did blah, blah, blah growing up. I started noticing like not everyone had that experience. And I'm like, maybe that wasn't okay. And explains a lot of my behaviors now. As I started getting access to social media, there were the websites like Omegle and different cam websites where you could like video chat with people, and they were always super sexual, and it would be like grown men naked asking to see different parts on kids. And at the time, like my friends and I thought it was funny, and it was like, wow, grown adults want to see us naked or want to talk to us. But we were like 12, 13, 14 years old, like Justin Bieber posters, glasses, clearly a child. and grown men were asking to see us naked. So this just common reoccurring theme of just sex. Like, I was so sexually driven as a child and I had no idea. I always wanted a boyfriend, I always wanted a girlfriend, I always wanted to be kissing or doing different things or whatever. And then I got a phone, and I talked about that in my testimony video, but like in middle school when I got a phone for the first time and I was sending booty pics and nudes and receiving nudes from boys and girls, and just like, I know like kids at that age are exploring, and I'm not saying this is like traumatic, I'm just sharing the stories of like all of this sexual perversion that I had growing up. I was so desensitized to anything sexual, and I sexualized everything and basically everyone in my life. So all of my teachers I had growing up, I would fantasize about them and romanticize them. Any like adult figure in my life, I would just romanticize about. And so I feel like I was just like rolled by that. And yet again, it was a multitude of things. It was the exposure at a young age, but also just part of growing up and having all of those hormones and coming to adult things. I'm not saying this is like a crazy traumatic story. Like I said, just sharing. And then of course the exposure to became a thing, and then that ruled my life for a really long time, but I thought it was normal because every kid my age was talking about it or watching it or sharing it, and it was just like super normal. My sister just called me, so I had to pause for a second. Oh, okay, actually I already said it. The P word got into my life, and that had a hold on me. Obviously I wasn't aware at the time because I thought it was normal, I thought it was healthy, I thought everyone watched it. I'm like, oh, this is no big deal, like it's fine. No, baby, it's not fine. It's actually disgusting, absolutely horrendous. And I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and I don't want to shame anyone, but also this is something I don't take lightly. I think the P word is literally demonic, is literally terrible. Hey, me editing here. I feel like I need to clarify that I'm not saying people watching it or people indulging in it is disgusting and bad. Just the actual like film and the industry and everything. I don't want this to come off as judgmental or like super negative, because I understand that it is such a stronghold in people's lives, and it's not a light topic. I feel like I didn't express that enough, that I didn't want to make it seem like I was coming across people who watch it or have problems with it are gross and whatever. Like, I'm talking about the actual like substance itself. I needed to reiterate that because I feel like I kind of just got real bold there for a second, and I want to make sure like no one feels guilty, because like I was stuck in that for a long time, and like I said, it's super normalized and people really struggle with it. Like, it ruins relationships and marriages, and it just ruins people, you know, like it's terrible for you. And I didn't want to like skim over that and make it seem like I was judging anyone. God love ya. I think it is so damaging and detrimental to society, and I wish we could just completely abolish it and never see it again, but that's just not how the world works. That's my 2 cents. At this point, watching the P word, sending photos, talking inappropriately with people brought a lot of validation. And when I was in middle school, I was a little bit of a chunky, thick lady, and I was like one of the thicker girls in school. I feel like a lot of the girls were still like their preteen bodies, and I was like boobs and butt, a little thicker in middle school. Granted, I was not cute. I was not cute in middle school, y'all, but I had a big butt. And so that was like my whole personality in middle school. Like, I thought that was what everyone liked about me, what everyone noticed about me. I would always wear leggings, do all the things to make my butt look good, you know? And so I rode that wave for a while, and that just really planted the seed that my value was my body. And that's why people liked me. People valued the way that I looked. And so I really rode that wave for a while. I remember getting to the age of like 16 or 17, and my friend and I at the time had the mindset that like, oh my gosh, we should just lose our virginities to do it, and like do it with like a pair of friends. And that experience was absolutely horrendous, terrible, disgusting. The minute I got there, I didn't want to do it anymore, but I didn't know how to back out of it because I was already there. I didn't have a ride home. We walked there. I thought we were gonna like sit down and talk and chill before, like, as a group of people, but no, it was instantly, as soon as we walked in, they both like were like, let's go, and like took us into separate rooms. And at that point I'm like, scared out of my mind, disgusted out of my mind. Like, what am I doing? Is my friend thinking the same thing? What is she doing? All of that. So that was my first experience, and it was god awful. Put a bad taste in my mouth, but at the same time, there was still that part of me that like felt validated by it. Up to this point in my life, all the people that I've had sexual relationships with, I would say 90% of them were in the same vein as that, wanting a sense of validation or just a drunken choice, or, you know, like I didn't see the value in it. I didn't understand, because society, especially now, is so like sexual liberation and all of this, and it doesn't matter, like you can do whatever with anyone. And I didn't have the morals and the mindset that I do now, and I feel like it was destroying me. Like, I had such a skewed perception of sex and sexuality. Like, there was no limits, no boundaries. I didn't care. I'm not trying to say this as in like, oh, I slept with a ton of people. Like, I didn't sleep with a ton of people, but every time I did, it wasn't a great experience. And I'm not saying every single person I was with was R word or it was super bad. Like, there were a few people who I like was in a relationship with and I thought I loved and everything, but it's still like, now with the purity mindset that I have and just more morally sound, looking back, definitely a lot of, I don't want to say mistakes or regrets, because I don't like to live in that like regretful mindset, but definitely not something I'm proud of. Definitely something I've had to ask for forgiveness for and to forgive myself for, because I didn't know then what I know now. I don't like to beat myself up on it. And if that's one thing I can harp on to people watching this, is the shame thing. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you should be sexually liberated and go do all the things that I've done or go do everything that you desire. Absolutely not. I think that is such backwards advice that society tells everyone, and it devalues everything that we have to offer physically, in my opinion. If you don't agree, this isn't about you, girl. This is me and my story. That would be it, though. And if you have experienced the things that I've experienced, I pray that you don't feel guilt or shame or disgust about it, because we don't know these things. And even if we do, we're still human, you know? And that's why we need Jesus. That's why we need the Holy Spirit, because it's hard out here. It's hard out here nowadays too, especially when people don't value it the same anymore, or care about it the same, or talk about it the same, when it's constantly in your face, constantly normalized. Like, yes, watch the P word, it's gonna help you do this, it's gonna teach you this. Yes, have sex with this person, and it's such a mess. The media is a mess when it comes to sex. Yeah, to get back on track, eventually after I graduated high school, straight out of high school, after COVID and everything, like in the midst of COVID, I started, I don't think I can say OnlyFans. I started OF. I think that's what you're allowed to say. I started OF. It was a whole new door of sexual liberation. I was too scared to post though. Honestly, insecurity has been a pain in my butt my whole life. But if one good thing came out of it, it was that I was too insecure to do a lot of things. Like, I had all of these sexual desires, but I didn't like the way that my body looked. So I didn't pursue a lot of the partners that I wanted, purely because I was too insecure about the way I looked. Same thing with OF. I did it, and I'm not saying it's good, and I'm not trying to justify anything that I did, but I also was so insecure about the way that I looked that I could only do so much. Eventually, I just lost my passion. I wouldn't even say it was a passion, but at the time it was a passion for it, because I had a vicious cycle of hating my body. But I still did it, and I still made my money. And in the midst of this, when I started getting into OF, was when I started, even like BC, I started having an understanding of why the P word is bad. And I stopped doing that, but I still did things, I don't know the proper word for, let's say M word. Let's do that. I still did that. I justify that all day. Like, oh, it's just a form of stress relief, and it's just this, and it's just that, and whatever. I stopped watching things, but I was still doing things, and I was still fantasizing about people. And now I know, like, our subconscious doesn't know the difference between, like, imagination and reality. So when I'm in imagination doing things to these people, my brain doesn't realize that that's not true. So I'm still in a fantasy land, fantasizing about someone doing this to myself. It's just this still I'm reinforcing that like sexual deviancy, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how to word it. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Continue doing that all the way up until I became a Christian. And that's when even before, I guess I should share this too, when I started realizing the harm in the P word, I also began to be celibate. I slowly started learning like, oh, I don't want to just have casual sex anymore. I don't want to party anymore. And then when I became a Christian, that completely settled it for me. I knew I didn't want these things, but now I had like biblical truth for it. And I started to understand it more. And I really started to look at all things sex and relationships and all of this stuff. I started to look at it completely differently. But the desires did not go away. I was able to maintain no P word. Like that was super easy for me. Staying celibate was super easy for me. Did I still want to talk to men? Yeah, that's taken a long time to get out of. But the desires to inward were still there. And I was fighting that hard. I was like I would ask so many people about it when I became a Christian to see if someone would tell me like, hey girl, it's normal, like you still can. And that just wasn't the consensus, and everyone always had an amazing explanation as to why I shouldn't, and I understood, and it didn't upset me, and I didn't think any of these people were wrong. Like all of it made sense, but there was still that part of me that was like, oh, but why? When I stopped doing anything like sexually, I would have like what I've heard ex-drug addicts talk about. They have like using dreams where when they stopped using, they would have dreams about using it and then wake up feeling like they just did. I was having that, but like sexual and like inward, whatever related. And then I would wake up like, oh my gosh, I would feel guilty. I would feel like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? And the dreams were like intense and graphic, and I'm like, what is going on? I understood why that was happening though, so I didn't like freak out about it or make a big deal out of it. I was just like, this is just part of it, you know? But that made it hard. There were times where I would wake up and feel like the compulsion to do it. Like, oh, it's fine. Like my mind is still like waking up, and I just had a dream about it, and I'm like, oh, I can just do it right now. And then I'd be like, wait, no, we ain't doing that. To say that I was like completely done when I became a Christian is wrong. I definitely would go a couple months, and then I would do something again. And then I would ask someone, and then one person would be like, oh no, it's fine. And then I'd be like, okay, it's fine, I'm gonna do it. And then I'd be like, wait, no, girl, no, we ain't doing this. Devil, get out of here. I was battling with that on top of other battles. I got into a relationship. Like I said in my testimony video, I don't want to air that out. I don't want to touch on that. I'm not ready to, and I don't know if I ever should, just out of respect for the person, even though I didn't get respect. But I'm a child of the Most High. I'm a light of this world, and I don't want to bring any drama into it, you know. There's already too much. I went into this relationship very clear on my morals and my boundaries and everything, but since it was my first time ever establishing that, it was like a practice run. And since I wasn't super strong in my foundation and in my walk, and I definitely did not give the Lord enough time to marinate in me, I fell short a lot in that relationship. That's all I'm gonna say. So those boundaries, purity, moral, none of it was respected in that relationship. None of it was taken into account. And so it was just this up and down of like doing something I didn't want to do. And I'm not saying that I was forced or anything. It was just like neither of us were strong in our will and in our purity. That's all I'm gonna say. And so it was just this the whole time, and it took such a mental, physical, for reasons that I'm not gonna share, and mental, spiritual. It just took a toll on me as a whole. And that's when I had the revelation, like, this is no joke. This is not something that I can do casually and I can play with. There is something super powerful behind this and something super special to this that I no longer want to play this game anymore. It took a really ugly, eye-opening moment for me to be like, okay, I'm done. And so now where I'm at today, my purity, and I know that word is so like ew, like if you're not a Christian, even if you are, like that verbiage sometimes it's just like ew. I value it so much more now, and I cherish that so much. That is my walk right now, is walking through lust and working through some of these sexual wounds and just the impact that's had on me. It's really hard because it's all in music and media, and it's super easy for me to fall back into certain temptations, and so I have to be careful. And I know everyone's walk's different, everyone's temptations are differently, and everyone's opinions on this is vastly different. But I have a lot of support and accountability in my life when it comes to this, and I'm just super honest and open. Like, if it's something I'm struggling with, I'm going to talk about it. But I'm not like constantly airing out my laundry. Like, oh my gosh, I had this dream last night. Oh my gosh, I just had this thought. Like, no, I'm praying about it. I'm working through it. I'm doing things to, you know, keep my focus on Jesus. And I'm just praying that, like, God, when you bring me my man, he's got to respect this. He's got to respect my purity. And that's how I'll know. That's how I know he's my man of God. That's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, it's unfortunate because a lot of my relationships I had growing up with adults were just skewed because of that lack of fatherly figure. And I know it's funny to joke about daddy issues and we can make light of it all we want, but it is serious and it does have serious consequences on you. And that's why, another reason why God is so good, because he is my father figure now. And that was really hard for me for a long time to even want to follow Jesus, because I'm like, why does it have to be a man? Why does God have to be a father? Why does Jesus, you know, like, I could not get over the whole male aspect of it, and it took a lot of healing and understanding and ministering for me to get to that point of being okay with it. Not only being okay with it, but loving it and embracing it and healing with that understanding, knowing that, like, yes, my father figure failed, and a lot of these male figures in my life took advantage of me. We can call it how it is, abused me, and did these things. But God can redeem that, and he can heal that, and he can restore that. And I really hope you leave with that understanding today that, like, first of all, not all men are bad. I know it's really easy to look out through history and see the damage that men have done. And history of just the world and history of your own life. It's very unfortunate, and I hope we continue to put more effort into male mental health, destigmatizing a lot of things, also forgiving. Because resentment doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the opposite. It doesn't help the opposing party, and it doesn't help you. Resentment does absolutely nothing. So I think steps moving forward is talking more openly about mental health, forgiving. It's just my personal opinion. I've had a lot of negative experiences with men, but I'm not losing hope. I know there are just bad people, period. There's bad men, there's bad women, there's bad Christians, there's bad non-Christians. It's everywhere. Evil is everywhere. That's why we gotta follow Jesus, to see the light and to see the good and be the light and be the good of this world. So I pray that moving forward, you are able to let things go and give them to God and heal from these things and forgive people. You don't have to go to this person and be like, hey, I forgive you. You know, forgiveness is a choice. You can daily walk it out. You might not feel it. You might not understand it. It might be the worst thing ever. You don't have to do it for them. They don't even have to know. Or do it for you. Give yourself that freedom of forgiveness so that you can walk in freedom and practicing forgiveness, because people are going to hurt you your whole life. We are flawed human beings. I'm ministering to myself right now. We are flawed human beings, and you're going to have to forgive people forever if you want to be in relationship with people. And that's what we were created. We were created to be in relationship. And so you got to practice forgiveness. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be rough. It's going to be hard. I encourage you to do it, obviously between you and God, but also with a group of people if you can, or a person to help you walk through that process, because it's not easy. You might have to be like, I forgive this person. And it might feel like the fattest lie you've ever said. But over time, you'll find freedom in that, I promise you. I hope that just came out of nowhere. Thank you, Holy Spirit. I was not anticipating like giving any advice in this video. Let me see if I have any good questions. Okay, we got one. How do you deal with restraint and boundary setting in relationships when it comes to sexual activity? Okay. Well, I'm not the best person to ask, because my last relationship, like I said, I failed at that. Verbally, I could set boundaries all day. Physically maintaining those and respecting those is a different story. With where I'm at now and going through that experience, it taught me literally everything that I needed to know about boundaries and how important they are. Like I said, the importance of purity. But I would say, from what I know now, if you're in a relationship or you're talking to someone, whatever, I would say accountability, praying about it, and also don't put yourself in situations to where things could happen. Like, that's where I messed up. I was like, oh yeah, we can have a sleepover, like it'll be fine. Who we kidding? Because that ain't happening. I'm not gonna give you all the details as to why things happened or what happened or whatever. Just be smart. Plan wholesome dates, plan group dates. Be vocal from the get-go. Like, this is how it is. I need these boundaries because I believe this, and no hard feelings, but if you don't align with these and you're not gonna respect these, bye-bye. Have a good day. And don't just take their word for it. Because anyone can say, oh yeah, girl, like, I'm gonna respect these boundaries, blah, blah, blah. But then in 2 weeks or a month later, they're like, hey, you trying to come over? Hey, can I come over to your crib? My. And I'm still figuring this out. I'm like, how much is enough grace? When is it time to say no? When is it time to be like forgiving? You know, I'm still figuring that out. But I think to be safe and to respect your boundaries, girl, don't play. Like, if these guys want to act funny, let them be funny. Let them go on stage and do some stand-up. Like, baby, don't let them play with your feelings. You know what I'm saying? You know it's from God, and your boundaries are respected, and there's peace, and there's no confusion, and there's no doubt. Of course, it's not going to be, like, laid out in front of you on a silver platter, and it's going to be, like, this perfect, beautifully staged thing. Like I said, we're still human, and we're still going to fall to sin, and we're going to do these things. Y'all will respect each other's boundaries. He'll be open about his boundaries, his struggles, and everything. But I'm not a relationship counselor. I'm not a super well-versed Christian yet. Early, I made some bad choices in my past relationships, so I can only tell you what I know so far. But that's kind of where I'm at, and I hope that helps you. If that answers your question, for me, I have such hard, firm boundaries. Like, you cannot play with it. Baby, we are guarded up like the National Guard. Like, you are not invading my peace. You are not invading my physical, emotional, spiritual like, we're not playing. At this point in my life, if I'm letting a man in, it's got to be God coming down and telling me, hey, girl, this is your man. Like, that's how serious I am about this now, because I can't play with it anymore. I really hope I got everything out that I wanted to say, and I shared what I wanted to share. I think I got enough out there. I don't need to share every traumatic experience and every whatever. And like I said in my testimony, with time, I feel like things will come out. I'm trying to keep it as tame as possible on YouTube too. If you have any more questions, you can ask me in the comments and I'll answer them there, or like we can message privately about it. If there's any topics you want me to touch on, any further explanations, anything like that, just let me know. And I hope this spoke to your spirit today. But yeah, I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.